video is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
855-40-LAURA. I was waiting for Chuck Woolery to show up. And what was that old show?
Love Connection. Was there a Love Connection?
Love Connection. I think there needs to be a chaperone at this meeting between Xi and President Trump. Do you think it's a bad sign that I'm looking out my window and I see a tree filled with vultures? I'm very much into signs, by the way, and I'm talking about China circling us with a huge $360 billion trade deficit. This year will be $360 billion. Last year, it was $347 billion. Month to month from September to October, and it's sick that I know this, but I do. It's sick that I remember this. We've dropped the trade deficit slightly. I think it's $10 billion something. But it's still gone up month to month compared to last year. So the trade deficit situation is not good. But nevertheless, the pageantry and the pomp in Beijing, I mean, we thought it was pretty cool when people drove up to that ellipse at the White House and got out and were greeted by Melania and Donald Trump for a state dinner, but we don't have the dancing dragons and the face painting and we don't have any of that stuff. Those face painted people with the yellow hats frighten me. I just want to say that is a frightening visage. I don't like that.
You don't like the Peking opera? I
wouldn't let those kids with the spears near the president either. I don't trust the Chinese. I wouldn't even let the kids with the spears near him. Okay, that's not something I would ever permit if I were in the Secret Service. But I look out my window, and I wonder if the vultures in the tree. Look at all the vultures. I feel like I'm back in the Okavango Delta in Botswana. Look at the vultures up in the tree, guys. There's huge vultures. That means something is dead down there.
It means something died in your yard.
Something is dead, and it's either jumped the fence and is hung up on the fence, and now I'm going to be worried about this the whole show. I want Elisa to go check on what animal and then report back as to what animal. This is not
Mutual of Omaha. We don't go
I want to know what's down
in the brush.
I want to know, is it a fox? Is it a poor deer? Are the vultures? It's like the U.S. economy. They're circling and trying to pick the bones off of the American worker and American manufacturing base. Oh, look, I'm looking closely. There's a hammer and sickle on the wing of the second vulture on the highest branch. Look at that. See, you can see it's a real red wing with.
We're very dramatic this morning.
Well, here's what I think is happening. On the surface, it does not look great for someone who campaigned on being tough with China, because getting all these deals, like we have $250 billion worth of deals. We got DuPont, we have Goldman Sachs, we have GE, we have all these companies who've sealed these deals. They're doing business in China. They're doing joint ventures in China. And we are led to believe that this is going to help, I guess, the American economy. And indeed, it may. And look, anyone can do deals in China and crow about it. I mean, as far as a private company, I don't have any problem with that. If they want to do deals that benefit America and American workers, I do have a problem with companies setting up shop in China, because American policy is so onerous toward these companies. But I think the rubber will meet the road when the president returns from China, and whether he does this 301 investigation and he pursues what's called a 301 process against China, which is under the Federal Fair Trade Act of 1974, I believe, 73, 74. Sorry, what the free market people call a Cold War relic. Well, it's actually a law that protects America, and the other presidents don't really feel the need to do it, but it's really important. So the question is whether we will continue to take that action. The vultures are now circling. Oh, my gosh, they're coming toward the window. Look at them. They're all scattering because Elisa's out there near the carcass.
Speaking of vultures.
No. Speaking of vultures, this is what Madeleine Albright said. Was this morning? Former Secretary of State. Let's listen. Madeleine Albright. I believe we have a soundbite from Madeleine Albright. Yes? No? Maybe? Yeah, hang on, I'm told. Hang on, the vultures will swoop down. You have it in the list of soundbites.
But a lot of American manufacturers are worried because the president promised to bring some relief in the trade inequities between China and the United States, and they see this as largely symbolic, a lot of glad-handing, watching the opera and the dragons go by, but
let me
much
say,
to say.
You know something, forget the sound bites. Let me tell you this. No other president in my lifetime has ever stood side by side, or face to face, I should say, with the Chinese president and talked the way Trump has talked about unfair trade practices. Now, he said, and we'll play it, I don't really blame China. I mean, China's doing what any country would do to try to protect its citizens and get an advantage against a lazy and sloppy, frankly, lazy and misinformed political leadership in another country. You're always trying to get leverage. Relationships half the time are leverage. Friendships, sadly, are leverage. Everything, business leverage. But dealing with China, Russia, any of the big powers still in the world, we're always looking for leverage. We have an enormous amount of leverage against China. And we're going to play for you some of the best moments from last night's show. Elisa's reporting on what it is. She's coming into the room right now.
It's a fox, a dead fox?
Oh.
It's actually really small.
It's a baby? Baby fox?
Oh, no, that could be a very grim portent.
Oh, no, a baby fox. Oh, no. Oh, Fox News, that's not good. Oh, that's a bad one. No, well, Fox News is doing great. Thank you very much.
I don't think you need to read.
Small?
I don't think we need to read
How small?
too much.
Like, show me. That's not a baby fox. That's a big fox. Did it get stuck on the fence? No, it's underneath it.
On the rocks.
On the rocks? It's on the rocks? Fox on the rocks? That's not a good title. I don't like that.
I kind of like it.
This is very dramatic. See, this is actually old-timey radio.
Yeah, if you live on a farm, this is great.
No. It's old-timey radio with the sound effects. And in the 50s, you gather around the TV set. I mean, the radio, the big radio console. And it was a stormy night. and I heard footsteps. And the vultures came. Yeah. I was wondering why Hellhound and Junkyard were going insane this morning. They were going to bust through that glass. So business contracts kick off the China visit. Well, I will say this. Anyone who believes that Donald Trump is not crafty and canny when it comes to exerting and using leverage doesn't know him well and hasn't watched him over the last 10 months. I will give you this. On the surface, this looks like, wow, China gets one up on us. Look at this. He's falling for this pageantry and then the narcissism of the moment. I believe now we have Madeline Halfbright. Let's listen.
Clearly, he is trying to make himself very popular with President Xi by, I think, kind of overdoing the sycophancy of saying how wonderful he is and what a really good friend he is. But what really troubles me is I don't want to hear him saying all the time how we are weak and people taking advantage of us and America's a mess. I think that's very sad and a very wrong message for the President of the United States to be delivering when he's on such a truly important trip in Asia.
Now, Madeleine Albright prefers a president who bows down to other leaders, literally bows down to them. And she prefers a leader who says, yeah, there's American exceptionalism, but there's Greek exceptionalism and British exceptionalism, blah, 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 blah. And she prefers a leader who goes over to Europe and apologizes. That's what she prefers. She prefers outward signs of sycophancy.
One of the member nations of the world.
We're part of the global community. You see, Donald Trump's playing the China game here, which I think is actually really smart. And the more I hear the criticism of his trip, the more confirmed I am in my view that he actually not only knows what he's doing, but he's actually playing China's own desperate need for global affirmation. He's playing at their game. He's giving them what they want on the surface, but did he ever say, and you tell me if you heard it because I didn't, maybe he said it overnight when I was getting my 3 hours of sleep. By the way, the sleep app says I got 48% quality sleep.
I told you. That's sleep. I want people to call in about this.
The sleep app.
Do you use the sleep app?
This is a sleep cycle app that I bought. I got the premium version, $29. What a rip.
You got to sleep
what
crap.
A rip.
That thing keeps you up because you worry all night.
Well, you know
Am
what
I going to score
you know what
high
I did
enough?
find? It records when I snore, and it says I snored for 22 minutes, and I don't snore.
I'm going to bring that in and put it on during the radio show.
Okay, so that's the listeners snoring when they hear us talking about the vultures. So listen. So it says I snore. Don't hold up the Chris Hill soundbite. I don't care about him. So it says I snore for 22 minutes. Okay. Well, I buy the, and they suck you in because then I'm like, do I really snore? And they suck you in to buy the premium. So I click on to buy the premium, $29.99 for the year, right? You know, it just keeps re-upping, and you never can stop it once you re-ups till you're in the ground.
Can I ask you a quick question just before you continue? Do you sleep with dogs?
Yes, two.
Yeah. Might they be roaring and growling, and the stupid app thinks it's you snoring?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, Columbo figured this out.
Junkyard is known to snore. But, however, I will go back. I clicked the premium button, and then I went back and I got to listen to my periods of snoring. So I said, I don't snore. This is ridiculous. I click the play button.
Okay.
And I hear my sleep machine with the crickets and the monkey sounds in the background because I have the sleep machine with the waterfall. So they're recording my sleep machine. So everything's working against each other.
It's all dumb. Stop the app. The app thinks that the sleep machine and the dogs are you, and that's lowering the sleep.
And then I wake up and I'm stressed out because I got no sleep. I actually felt pretty good.
You probably got 89% deep REM sleep.
No, but it has this chart. Then it has a chart, and it takes me back to like my geometry and trigonometry. When I look at the graph, and they said Laura started the semester here, and then she went up and down. This thing is dipping down and then going up to a plateau.
Laura, you need to have more sleep. You're not sleeping enough, darling.
It is not restful. You have to turn off all machines.
Into the cocoon. Don't do anything at work all day.
In Greece,
then
we have fresh, organic food all the time. We have no processed food. Processed food to keep you up at night, Laura.
Everyone Huffington
has no idea what we're talking about.
Ariana Huffington is on a sleep crusade, and this group may need it.
I actually think that this is what
we should have
do.
her in once a week on the show.
Oh, that'd be a good idea. Laura, this is distressing. Actually, you know what I think we should do? You know how you call Slap Happy or Slap Happy, which I'm a little Slap Happy? We should have an app called Sleep Happy. And it should be not Slap Happy, but Sleep Happy. And we could have all of our own tricks that we learn of hosting a morning radio show and a nighttime TV show. I mean, that's just what we should do. I'm thinking it through. 855-40-LAURA. Mike Pillsbury is going to join us. He's going to give us his sense of how this China trip has gone. The rubber will meet the road when the president comes back. He has not looked at China and said, we're not pursuing enforcement actions against you. That's what China was desperately looking for, an assurance from Trump that if they do a little bit more and try to choke off North Korea, that we would say the enforcement stuff, we're backing off. President Trump has not said that. I love the pageantry. I love the red carpet. Who made your red carpet? I bet it's made in China. Stay with us. The wait is over. No more racking your brain to find the perfect holiday gift because I found it for you. It's the Ovation Hair Holiday Gift Set. That's right. Ovation's famous gift box is available now at a near 60% savings. These 7 best-selling hair products are in one gorgeous presentation and ready to put right under the tree. It comes with a powerful, of course, the one and only one-of-a-kind cell therapy treatment, the 3rd bottle in the shower you've been missing, plus Ovation's intensive repair hair mask, the luxury shampoo, essential hair oil, the wide-tooth detangling comb, and your choice of shampoo and conditioner. Ovation's going to change the way you think about your hair, and you're going to feel so great after you use it because my hair, telling you, went from pretty lifeless and sometimes a little flat to really luscious, fabulous. You're going to love it. I'm telling you, I use it. You'll love it. Go to ovationhair.com, select Laura Ingraham, the survey at checkout, special new customer discount on top of the near 60% discount already there for the holiday gift set. Go to ovationhair.com. Remember, Laura Ingraham at checkout. Get them while they last at ovationhair.com.
You know, in a deeper sense, this is a president who doesn't seem to understand what he's representing. I mean, this is right now and has been for decades the greatest country in the world. And I wish I'd hear a little more about that from this president than to suggest that we're being fleeced by the Chinese. We have done more for ourselves, but also for the rest of the world and the rest of the world combined. Oh, yeah. And I'd like to see a little note of pride from him.
Okay,
a lot of other things.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's Chris Hill, former ambassador to China under Obama. Let me just say this about him. Okay, this is a man who had no problem presiding over the rise of China at the expense of U.S. workers and manufacturing. As China was bent over in hard work, ambitiously trying to establish its absolute dominance, in the South China Seas. Its goal is to be a total hegemon, not only in Asia, but beyond. What did we ever hear from the Obama administration on that? Very little. We heard paltry remarks from the Obama administration on China's human rights violations. I want to hear more from President Trump on that. We heard very little or saw very little pushback when it came to China's aggressive development of military space and weaponry, their subsidies of major industries. The idea that Trump is somehow the patsy of China. Look at the 8 years of Obama when the trade deficit skyrocketed every year and where we took very few enforcement actions that were at least followed up on in any kind of strong, rhetorical, consistent policy message coming from Obama. He did slap a few tariffs on, as I recall, on some cheap cold-rolled steel. Obama did that. But there was not this relentless pressure being put on China. We knew that North Korea was an increasing problem under Obama. This didn't just happen over the last 10 months. Nice try, Chris. Chris Hill, again, former ambassador to China for Obama. But this newfound love of American exceptionalism, when these people have been singing from the globalist hymnal for decades. It's the global community. America has a responsibility on the global stage. Now suddenly, oh, well, Trump doesn't love America. Trump's going over there and sucking up to the Chinese. Your policies sucked up to the Chinese. Your policies told the Chinese all they needed to know. They had an open field to run on. No defenders. We got no defensive line. They just ran right down the field. They dominated on the military front. They dominated in American investment. We're going to be talking about this tonight on the Ingraham Angle. Make sure to tune in. Mike Pillsbury, a foreign policy expert and is author of the phenomenal book, The 100-Year War. We have a lot more to get to. Stay with us. You are listening to The Laura Ingraham Show. From running errands to going out with my family to getting to the studio, I depend on my car just like you guys do. And let me ask you this. If your car broke down today, can you afford the repairs? You know, I don't worry about that anymore because I have extended vehicle service protection from CarShield. Yeah, sure. Something like replacing your engine can cost you thousands of dollars. I know you don't expect it to happen. You kind of roll around and you think, oh, things are going to be fine. But when you least expect it, this will happen, guaranteed. You need to guard against it. CarShield.com. Go there. It's ultimate extended vehicle service protection. And that means when you're out of manufacturer's warranty, you can actually, rest easy. Because almost everything is covered by CarShield. Mechanical repairs, all those computer sensors, air conditioning, heating, and this stuff's an outrage how much it costs. So you get your mechanic paid directly, the dealership paid directly, whoever you choose to get your car fixed. That means you don't have to worry yourself about being reimbursed. Get 24/7 roadside and a rental car while yours is in the shop. Get covered by CarShield. I did, thank goodness, and you can too. Call them at 800-CAR-6100. That's 800-CAR-6100 to go to. They went nuts. They went nuts today in the American left-wing media because the president said that. Who can blame China? Now, I will say if Obama said that, I think we'd be annoyed. But would be annoyed because we would know for sure that Obama would not take up aggressive enforcement action against China. We would just know that. That's part of the reason why we'd be really ticked off. But with Donald Trump, is that the case? Well, the proof will be in the pudding when he comes back from China. Joining us now, Mike Pillsbury, who's the author of The 100-Year War, foreign policy expert, consultant on China, Department of Defense. He joins us now. Mike, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Fine, thanks. I'm thrilled at the president's Beijing trip. It's kind of right out of my book, frankly. And advisors aren't often as thrilled as I am this morning and yesterday about.
All right, Mike, speak up because we can't hear you well. You're talking low, but speak up. Let's talk about the comment he made that is driving everybody crazy about you can't blame China. That China's just doing what China would do. It's being seen as an insult to America from a sitting president abroad. Why is that analysis wrong?
This goes back, Laura, almost 15 years when Mr. Trump first addressed the China issue in one of his books. and he was a little bit sarcastic that we can't blame China for outsmarting us. And he called the Chinese the smartest negotiators in the world and talked about the need for unpredictability is the only way to get some kind of leverage on China. So I see him as being true to his views over the last 15 years. He's not insulting Americans. He's backhandedly praising China for being smart in the past, but then he has the word if in there, that things are different now. I see this, frankly, as the opening gambit in what's going to be a 2 or 3 year struggle. And the opening gambit, no trade war, no Dalai Lama invitation. He didn't sell Taiwan the jet fighters, the F-16s it wants. But he's put them on notice and very tactfully, almost Chinese-style indirection, that you better be different in the future under Donald Trump. I was thrilled with his approach.
Well, the pageantry and the pomp that we treated Xi to when he came here is then bested by the Chinese over there. That's part of the game, is it not? I mean, you put on the dog, and then Arabella, Ivanka's kids, they are raised by, in part, nannies who speak Mandarin, so they can speak Mandarin, so then they send a message to Xi, and this plays to the ego of the Chinese, that you're a rising power. We're even speaking your language here.
Yes, as you know, in the last chapter of my 100-year marathon, I give 12 recommendations, all of which are using Chinese culture, Chinese history against them. And that's what President Trump is doing. He's really, if you watch the Chinese coverage on their official propaganda channel, they're a little bit wary that he's so Chinese in his approach.
Yeah, so they see this is a little, okay, this is making us uncomfortable.
They're suspicious. The Chinese are not buying this, totally, and they're quite aware of, there's a lot of press coverage of Bob Lighthizer, who you interviewed, sitting in the front row, very prominently as president.
And he looks Doesn't Lighthizer, who's the U.S. Trade Rep, remember he was U.S. Trade Rep deputy under Reagan, the youngest ever in the history of the country.
That's right.
He's sitting there glaring at the Chinese in the front row. I've seen that.
Bob Lighthizer has done one of the most effective articles I've ever seen on Chinese strategy and what to do about them. It's his speech on the 10th anniversary of China joining the WTO. And he basically says China's violated every part of the WTO, and we have to do something about it. And here he is sitting in the front row in President Trump's cabinet, shaking hands with President Xi. It's brilliant. It's very Chinese touch. Like, yes, I love opera, I love the Forbidden City, Xi's my friend, but oh, by the way, not only Bob Lighthizer, but here's Wilbur Ross in the front row, nailing down what looks like $200 billion of promises of buying American exports and investing in the U.S. By the way, that's the same day as Congress rolled out the new approach to cracking down on Chinese investment and buying the companies in the U.S., the CFIUS Reform Act.
And explain that. That's the Committee on Foreign Investment. I want to address this on television as well, which I'm going to do. China can come here now and buy an enormous amount of America. We have a Committee on Foreign Investment, which is a government panel that does review their attempt at purchasing technology companies, anything that would have a national security implication. But I would say, Mike, that China's buying large food companies, China buying large construction companies or other major commercial enterprises. Why do we allow them to do that when we can't do that in China? We're not allowed to do that in China, but they can come here and gobble up a huge amount of property and commercial interests, even beyond the Committee on Foreign Investment. That to me, that's a problem.
It is a problem, and the red line is supposed to be if it harms our competitiveness or our national security, then the answer is no. You cannot buy that American company. If it doesn't, if it just brings jobs, and if it's good for the American economy, then yes, the Chinese are more than welcome to buy the Waldorf Astoria, for example. So that's what this legislation is seeking to reform. The process has really been quite secret. The legislation that set it up is very vague. It's not clear, and a lot of liberal Democrats, frankly. Ron Wyden has written about this, so has Deborah Stabenow over the Smithfield-Ham deal. A lot of Democrats oppose Chinese purchase of American companies. It's AFL-CIO opposes a lot of it.
All right, so that's a bipartisan. That's bipartisan.
Taking a bipartisan position here. Yes, absolutely.
And so, what's the status of that legislative effort to curb or further limit China's ability to purchase American companies? What's the status of that?
It's the front page of the press that the reforms want a more serious review. Right now it's voluntary. It's really quite absurd.
Voluntary?
Only if companies come forward to this nebulous committee, which is located inside the Treasury Department, and report that, China wants to buy us. That's the only way we know that it's happening. So changing that, number one. Number two, monitoring the process. Right now there's no report on how many applications there are and how many are turned down and for what reason. There's no case law, no precedents that companies can follow. The third is who should be involved, who should be on this committee. It's part of the Hillary uranium deal. It's the same. That committee did not object, which is often what happens, and then the deal goes through. And Hillary is a member of it as Secretary of State, but now she can say, well, I had no idea what was going on, no one consulted me. So the idea of the legislation is to make this a much more transparent process where we can see which cabinet secretaries are saying what. It's really good legislation. It's Senator Cornyn of Texas is the original sponsor.
Well, again, this sounds kind of, to people, I guess it could sound kind of wonky, but I think this is exactly the kind of issue we should be discussing and understanding as Americans, because it does go to who we are as a country. Yeah, we want to be free and open, but
so they
remember,
can buy farms. They've been given a green light to buy farms, to buy agricultural.
Control our agriculture. That's great.
Yes.
That's a fantastic idea. I'm going to get into this big time, because remember, the Committee on Foreign Investment also greenlit the Russian purchase of 20% of our uranium interest through that Canadian company. So
that's right.
This has a history of botching things, this committee.
Well, and it's secret. It's not, calling it a committee is not quite right, even though that's what the law says. It's really a coordinating mechanism in which the intelligence community also has a sort of secret input when something is a national security threat and when it's not. So the idea of the legislation is that this is a far more important challenge to our country than people have realized. It shouldn't just be an unknown coordinating mechanism. It should be something that Congress can take a look at.
So, Mike, you in all of your study for decades on the rise of China and the anemic American response, when you see this happening in China today, you feel confident that Donald Trump has not given up the store or suddenly backing down on American exceptionalism, as the critics are saying today, that he's following through and will follow through on his pledge to redo trade deals that are necessary and specifically put the proper pressure on China to back off on these unfair subsidies or put into place tariffs if need be?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I have enormous confidence in Bob Lighthizer and Wilbur Ross. What I am worried about is something you brought up in the past, the number of posts at the Department of State that have not been filled. That's the part that's missing. We need an Assistant Secretary of State for Asia. We need a whole set of people to work on Asia and China. And it's been an impasse. And there are various press rumors that Secretary Tillerson will not accept the White House nominees. And the White House staff feels the same way about his nominees.
I know for a fact. I know for a fact he's not. Yeah. I know for a fact that Tillerson is blocking Trump's nominees. This is not sustainable. Mike Pillsbury.
Can't have people who have called Trump a liar and temperamentally unfit or sign letters like that. We can't have them have high appointments in the State Department. It's common sense.
Yeah, that's kind of a common sense deal. Mike Pillsbury, the 100-Year Marathon, author of one of the most important books on China of the last 15, 20 years. Mike, thanks so much. Come back soon. We'll take a break on the Laura Ingraham Show. You won't believe who stumbled into jury duty today. Not I, because I'm here. Is that a Chicago accent he's putting on? I love the show Good Times. That was so dynamite. That was a blast. I love that show. You know, the woman who played Florida, what was her, Esther Roll?
Esther Roll.
God, was she good. She was the housekeeper for the Archie Bunker, right?
She was a spin-off. That Good Times was an All in the Family spin-off.
With Maude and all.
Maude, the Jeffersons, and Good Times.
I feel so sorry for the current generation. They did not grow up in the golden era of TV, which is the late 1970s, mid-70s, late 70s, early 80s. All in the Family, Good Times, Maude. These shows were hilarious.
The Carol Burnett Show.
Jefferson. Oh, forget about it. I just hear the Good Times theme, and I'm in a great mood. Hanging in a jury. Oh, no. And this is a family, an intact family, living in difficult times in New York City, in the height of the crime and all the other stuff, the sexual revolution. And yet they had a conservative approach, did they not, Raymond, to child rearing and their own family?
They did. And they kept each other together, and it was tough. It was a tough life.
JJ is all over the place. That father, I can't remember his name, but
James was the character's name.
Yeah, but the father who passed away during the show, they had to write him out of the show.
Right.
He's knocking heads in that family. He goes, you're doing that to my daughter. Like he was. Yeah. Oh no, that was good. Looking back on that, there's a great piece to be written about how even in the 1970s, in the height of the sexual revolution, there were these shows on television that on the surface seemed kind of these were families and parental figures who laid down the law. They said, you're not going to treat my daughter this way. You go down to my daughter, you come through me. This was conservative stuff.
And you had a president yesterday doing his civic duty and appearing for court.
Oh, must we talk about him? That was the
jury
whole reason
duty.
we played the song.
That's right.
All right, I'll show you everybody have jury duty. What is that accent?
I don't know.
He goes through the door and all the sheeple are taking their photos.
That's a Hawaiian accent.
The sheeple are taking the photos. You're not supposed to have photos in there, by the way. No cameras in there. Taking the photos of the prez.
How y'all doing?
Oh, yeah. How y'all doing? Michelle.
Serving up the jury.
Oh, there you go. Serving up the jury. Serving on the jury? Up the jury?
Serving on the jury, I think is what he said.
Serving on the jury. All right, Chicago. Thanks.
This looks like Chicago.
Yeah, this looks like Chicago. The seas are going to part. The sun's going to come out because I'm back. I'm running for a third term. Then Michelle's going to run, and Oprah, Nopra. Remember when Oprah? Oprah's like, why did I ever get involved in politics? My show's going down the tubes. She had to start that up close and personal Sunday show on the OWN network. Well, Obama. They have to cling to Obama. That's all they have.
Well, there's a whole celebratory piece in the Times today about the dazzling appearance of President Obama.
You're listening to the Laura. Democrats turning on their former DNC interim chief, Donna Brazile, longtime Democrat operative, fundraiser, who blew the lid off of what the Clintons had been doing to try to pre-wire this election in 2016. 855-40-LAURA. How many of you are surprised that they've turned on Brazile? Very dismissive toward an African-American woman who has been a party stalwart for decades. That just shows it. I mean, they mean business. You turn on the Clintons and they're liable to have someone looking through your trash the next morning. They have the same old characters out there playing hitman. The lackeys, the toadies. Yeah, they have Robbie Mook out there and others. I'd purge that name from my memory until I saw him on television. But Tucker Carlson and Donna Brazile last night, it was really good. And she's trying to kind of maybe back off a little bit, but not that much. I mean, let's play the second Brazile, please. Or the first one, James, whatever is good. But Tucker Carlson had her on, and I think it was 2 segments. It was really interesting. Let's listen.
It was dismissive. Condescending and dismissive. Those are the words I characterize in the book. Because I came back and said, Robbie, I just left Little Haiti. Or, Robbie, I was in Cuyahoga County. Or, Robbie, I just left Colorado. And I wanted the campaign to understand that we needed yard signs. We needed radio spots.
We needed radio spots. We needed real support in these electoral districts that were critical for Hillary to win, and he was being dismissive toward her. She was looking at the landscape. They were all very confident, supremely confident that Hillary was going to win. And she was apparently saying this not as clear. We need some air cover here. And the advertisements we're running and the money we're deploying and the resources we're using. I look back on all of that, and boy, there were very few people who got this right. Very few people. And by the way, speaking of that, on the Brazil front, the MSNBC crowd, which of course had been predicting Donald Trump's ignominious defeat for, really a year before he won historic victory last year. Anniversary was last night of the win. Even the day before the Virginia election, just to, again, demonstrate how little these so-called political experts know, the day before the Virginia special election, the MSNBC crowd, and I think we have the soundbite, was basically predicting that Gillespie was going to win. Let's listen.
We're going to go around the table now.
Oh, no.
Elections tomorrow. Let me just start with this question.
I don't know.
Does anybody here think that the Democrats are going to win the governorship in Virginia tomorrow?
I don't know. And I'm alarmed
Nope.
that this is a question.
What about you?
Going to win.
I don't
what
think so. I think it's
and
Gillespie.
is it the Donna Brazil stuff? What is turning people at the last second?
Think Ed Gillespie or Northam wins?
It doesn't look like Northam wins.
Oh, my God.
Toss up. MS-13. Democrats going to look back, and Nick and I were talking, we're going to wonder if he does not win. In the elections tomorrow, obviously, but did we lose on the crime issue? Did we lose on the public safety issue? And if so, we as a party have got to come figure out.
Party issue.
Well, that could be part of the.
Weak.
So there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
Well, they're predicting that Ed Gillespie was going to pull out a surprise victory. That Ed Gillespie was somehow going to win because the MS-13 issue, the law and order issue, then the day after the election, they act like nobody was listening to them the day before. And they say, oh, well, as we said, Ed Gillespie was going to lose and the Democrats were going to win. No, actually, you were predicting the opposite. You were basically saying that the Democrat Northam had blown it. And I've got to say the same thing. And looking back on this Brazil stuff, the media were so quick to dismiss any concern about the Clinton campaign dominating and demeaning and edging out the Sanders supporters. And I know we have Bernie Sanders supporters listening to the show right now. And set aside what you may think of my views personally. And on this particular issue, what do you think about the way the Clintons treated your guy? So you're listening to the show. Maybe you're in Ohio or maybe you're in Pennsylvania, anywhere across the country, and you actually liked some of what you were hearing from Bernie Sanders during the campaign. He was much more focused on blue-collar issues, trade and the like. And think about the heat that he had. He drew huge crowds. You don't think the Clintons were seeing those crowds showing up for Bernie Sanders? You bet they were. They saw the crowds, and they wanted to eliminate any possibility of a Democrat raining on Hillary's parade. And so early on, they tried to ensure that that wouldn't be a problem. And Bernie would be iced out. And to do that, they needed to control every aspect of the DNC. They needed to have a big say in how money was being deployed. This was, again, before Hillary wins the nomination. They needed this, desperately needed this. So the fact that the Clintons were given a free pass by the media, even after these emails came out. Remember when the Hillary's, when the Podesta emails came out?
Well, Laura, actually last night Clinton was on late night, and she was talking about this whole issue. And, they asked her about it, how the DNC basically controls the campaign. And she said, quote, I didn't know what Donna Brazil, was referring to. So it's kind of
so she's just trying to blow off any concern. Okay, so no concern at all. We have no concern at all about this. It's crazy. But if you guys out there, any of you liked Bernie Sanders and you imagined you might pull the lever for Sanders, or you thought Sanders would be better against Trump, how do you feel now? How do you feel now about this? I would be enraged. You know, I'm putting myself in the position of, let's say, Rick Santorum supporters in 2012. If they had found out, and remember, Santorum picked up a bunch of states against Mitt Romney. He almost won Michigan. One of Mitt Romney's 3 home states. Remember, Santorum was with no money getting a lot of traction. Imagine if we found out now, or right after the 2012 loss, that, well, in fact, Mitt Romney's crew, the whole crew there, were icing out Santorum people and controlling how all the money was spent at the RNC. I mean, that is anti-democratic. It is completely condescending and dismissive. Forget Donna Brazile personally, to the voters of your own party. It shows a complete disregard for your own voters, the Democrat voters.
It's also ironic last night, everyone saying, thank you, Hillary, hashtag thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for what? Thank you for losing. Thank you for subverting the Democrat process within your own party. That's how ruthless the Clintons are, though. This just goes back to what we always knew about the Clintons. From the way they treated Bill's accusers. Remember the bimbo eruptions? You could drag a $5 bill through a trailer park and you can get anyone to say anything. Remember that old line? Shelley, line 3. Shelley, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm glad Donna Brazile is talking about the Clintons, which it's not going to matter to anybody that's her supporter anyway. But I didn't like Donna before. I trust her even less now. I don't believe for a minute that her motivation is that she felt she had to come clean and expose to help people. Her interviews with Tucker and on the Sunday shows, she is all about, she had no position. She had no clout anymore. She had no title. And I think all she's doing is trying to line herself up for the next thing and look like the hero, because she kind of disappeared. She didn't have anything anyway. And I just think it was disingenuous, all of her information, and Tucker was awesome.
No, Tucker was great. I appreciate it. Look, someone's trying to sell a book, but I don't think we can discount everything Don. I mean, as someone who's followed the Clintons for 20 years, covered the Clintons for 20 years, none of this surprises me. But for a Democrat voter, what I'm trying to say is, I would, if the shoe were on the other foot, and I found out that the Romney people were edging out Santorum, controlling the entire apparatus, keeping money from being deployed in certain parts that would have made this more fair in the nomination process, I would be livid, and I would put the blame where it rightly lies, with the establishment of your party. The Clintons still represent the Democrat establishment. They still have an enormous amount of clout. Bill Clinton was on one of the late night shows last night I saw. He was yucking it up. They're celebrities. They're still the biggest Democrat celebrities now, next to Obama. But, I mean, where's President Obama on any of this? He have any problem with this, or is this all fine with him? That Hillary got, apparently the damsel was in distress, and they had to protect Hillary. I thought Hillary's like, I am woman, hear me roar. I can fight on my own 2 feet. I'll defeat Bernie Sanders the right way, and I'm not gonna look for any special or unfair advantage because I'm a woman. I'm just a fighter. I'm out there. I just need an equal opportunity. In the end, she needed affirmative action to beat Bernie. She needed her own forced, corrupt version of affirmative action to beat Bernie. That's how I view it. And again, I'm looking at this and I'm putting myself in the Democrat voters' shoes. This is who you were dealing with. These are the people who ran the Democrat Party into the ground. Bill Clinton worked with the Republicans in his second term and actually helped preside over a thriving U.S. economy. Hillary was a totally different deal. And I just think we as conservatives should take a lesson from this and remind ourselves that the establishment is what got us into this mess, and the establishment is not going to get us out of this mess. So populist conservatism might not be the majority, but it certainly is the strongest plurality within the Republican Party and in elected leadership, I'll say. But the people, it's going to be your party to turn around. What we saw in Virginia is a warning sign. It's a warning sign for us. Immigration, uncontrolled, and a bloated government. Combine those two things and throw in a welfare state, and you're going to start losing states like Texas. You're going to start losing states like Florida. You won Florida by the skin of your teeth in 2016. Skin of his teeth, he won Florida. And you think you're ever going to get the popular vote unless we get a real handle on the promises that Donald Trump ran on and start putting points on the board. 855-40-LAURA. Joe Biden is still talking about how he could be president. You've got to be kidding me. I mean, he just won't be quiet. And we have a wonderful story from Election Day that will warm your heart and make you think that, well, guess what? The greatest generation, there's a reason we call them the greatest generation. And they keep showing us, even in dwindling numbers, why they are properly referred to, frankly, as the greatest generation. We'll bring you that story as well. 855-40-LAURA. Does the Clinton corruption and how deep it went surprise any of you? And what does that tell us, or what could that tell us about the need to guard against similar corruption within our own party structure? A lot of people complaining about some of the things that Ronna McDaniel has said in the last 24 hours about the Virginia race. She's the head of the Republican National Committee. So we'll get to some of that and a lot more. 855-40-LAURA.
The idea that the DNC could rig a contest, frankly, is laughable. The allegation she's making there simply isn't true. We certainly don't recognize the campaign she describes. We also don't recall some of the events she said that happened.
Are you planning a vacation for the holiday season, or perhaps next year's getaway? Well, if you're a timeshare owner, it's easier said than done. Listen, I know it. It's frustrating to be a timeshare owner. You pay all this money every year, and you never get the dates or the locations you want. This needs to stop. Call my friends at resortrelease.com today at 855-66-LAURA. They'll make timeshares go away forever. Why pay for something you no longer want to use? ResortRelease.com will help you get out of that crooked contract legally and permanently. Give them a call now for a free review of your timeshare situation. They're Better Business Bureau accredited, A+ rated, and if you don't get out of that timeshare, you do not pay a penny, guaranteed. 2018's maintenance fees are due any day now, so get out now before you have to pay. Visit resortrelease.com or call them at 855-66-LAURA to see if you qualify. That's 855-66-LAURA. Call my friends at resortrelease.com today. 855-66-LAURA to see if you qualify. If you've listened to my show for any period of time, you know how much I love Food for the Poor. They do what they say, and their financial integrity is unequaled. And I've seen their work personally. And right now, the people they serve need your help, as hurricanes, of course, have recently ravaged the Caribbean. News reports have stopped, and the camera crews, many of them have left, but the suffering continues. And that's why I'm asking for your help, because it's what Americans do best. We help people in real need. And you can save lives right now in the Caribbean. Just $50 provides food for a year and clean water for life for a child. And a gift of $250 does the same for an average family. Help Food for the Poor's amazing team help those in need. No one does the work better. I've seen what they do. I've seen lives saved and changed forever. Call 844-868-4673 or go to lauraingraham.com. Click on that radio banner, Food for the Poor. Please give what you can, $50 or $250. Every gift matters. Call 844-868-4673 or go to lauraingraham.com. As she was sticking a knife in his back. But Hillary goes on late night comedy shows and says, I don't know what she's talking about. I have no idea what Donna's talking about. Election's rigged? Oh, no, don't look at me. I'm Hillary. Couldn't be more honest. You're listening to The Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Some great pieces that I have to alert you to, including one about a World War II veteran who ran for office at age 93, and actually, I kid you not, won in a small town in New Jersey. 93 years old, and he ends up beating an incumbent mayoral candidate after he runs on a platform of, I kid you not, taxpayers first. It was a taxpayers first platform. And I also love the fact that he's Italian. Vito Perillo, 93 years old, U.S. Navy veteran, fought in the Pacific Theater. He wore out 2 pair of shoes, campaigning door to door in Tinton Falls. And he ousted the incumbent mayor, Gerald Turning. He got 53% of the vote, compared to Turning's 46%. And he said, the 93-year-old man said, I wanted to run because I was upset with some of the things this administration is doing, talking about his town's administration. He said he was motivated to run after a pair of whistleblower lawsuits against the police department cost Tinton Falls $1.1 million in settlements. And the incumbent served in the police department for 30 years, was police chief for 7 years. But nevertheless, the people of Tinton Falls said, you know, I think we're done with the entrenched power. We're going to go back to the World War II generation because they have more common sense about fiscal austerity when necessary. Keep the money in the taxpayers' pocket. It's a big waste of money. Taxpayers first. 93 years old. I love it. You've heard me talking about one of my favorite games. I love it. It's called Say Anything, and it's a total riot. Well, this is what happens in the game. You ask a question. It seems simple. Just ask a question, and then everyone around the table listens, starts talking, and by the end of this, you're all laughing hysterically. And it's interacting with each other. Say anything. It's that easy. Now, what happens? You set the game up. You gather around the table. The next thing you know, your family, you're connecting with them, you're talking, you're laughing, you're learning things about your family and friends that you didn't know before. And it's exactly the kind of thing. This game, Say Anything, is exactly the kind of game we need at a time where people are becoming so disconnected because of technology. The tyranny of tech. Well, this is a board game. I love board games, first of all. We got away from playing them for a while, but now we're back in the Ingraham household. So you got to get Say Anything. Great to bring on Thanksgiving. It's a great hostess gift. And right now at Target, I know that Say Anything, I think right now it's on sale. Yeah, it's on sale, $5 off. So go today, get Say Anything at Target before they sell out at this price. I know they did last year. They totally sold out, and it's no surprise to me at all. Say Anything, $5 off at Target. Well, this was the constant refrain of the last 36 hours or so, that because a Democrat seat in Virginia stayed Democrat, because a Democrat governor's race in Virginia was, of course, Democrat held, that suddenly it's Donald Trump. It's the fact that Donald Trump campaigned against Obamacare and wants to repeal Obamacare. So Bernie Sanders was focused on Obamacare in that soundbite. But is that the case? And we're just learning now about the new problems for this open enrollment in Obamacare. And I want to hear from a lot of you on what you're finding in this enrollment period. It goes from November 1st to December 15th. It's called open enrollment. And you look for coverage. You go to healthcare.gov, and the open enrollment season will show you a lot. And it's more underwhelming than you might have been led to believe by President Obama. Listen to this. Consumers are less likely to find multiple options under Obamacare for different plans. A majority of individuals might not even know that open enrollment exists, by the way, and there are fewer ads because Obama was really pushing open enrollment. And the Trump administration, I mean, they're happy to have this thing collapse on its own weight. Parts of the country had been at risk of having zero Obamacare options, but now every county in America will have at least one option, but just one, so you have no choices. Higher premiums, of course, that's going to affect open enrollment. About half of the marketplace enrollees expect significant 2018 premium increases, and that's going to increase the financial burden for healthcare consumers. Joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us. I want to say a young friend. He's an old friend who is never old. He's always youthful in my eyes. Foster Friess. He's a Christian conservative philanthropist one of the most wildly successful investors in the United States, and he has a fascinating new idea and project that would, I think, alter the way we proceed on healthcare and options in healthcare. He's going to tell us about it. It's patient-focused, and he joins us now. Foster Fries. Foster, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Laura, great to talk. Someone must have told you I crave affirmation. That was a very nice intro. Very, very nice. Congratulations on your show.
Thank you. We're having fun so far at Fox, and more to come. But I want you first, before you talk about your Patients USA idea, your reaction to what Bernie Sanders said, that the Virginia governor's race off your election and the New Jersey off your election, combined with the Maine vote in the state of Maine, they voted for even more generous Medicaid coverage under Obamacare. And Bernie says this is all Trump's fault.
Well, I think you nailed it when you said Virginia was a Democratic seat, and it's always been kind of drifted toward that. It would have been a real upset for Ed Gillespie to pull that off. So I think that's the answer. And I think Bernie Sanders is got to realize that Donald Trump has kind of stolen much of the Democratic constituency by having all the truck drivers, welders, farmers, everyday guys now seeing the authenticity and actually the causes that he champions are for little guys. So Bernie Sanders has got to play defense right now.
Foster, the Obamacare open enrollment. The lamestream media will say, oh, look, the reason people aren't excited about this is that they're not seeing as much in the way in advertising because the Trump administration is not spending the HHS dollars, Health and Human Services dollars, on advertising the great wonders of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. You're not seeing as many Facebook ads. You're not seeing as many ads on television. Remember Pajama Boy? When Pajama Boy came on last year and he says to his parents, I'm getting health care. Remember that? So they're saying it's a lack of advertisement and public awareness. What is your sense?
Well, I think that the key that we want to do in terms of talking about healthcare policy at a federal level is jump the state level. What good does it do to just have the state impose the same kind of essential health benefits that Obamacare has? So I think the answer to your question is people are disgusted on the fewer options they have, the higher costs, and that's kind of why we've launched this Patients USA, is to begin the process of reducing the cost of health care. You can't reduce health insurance premiums without reducing the underlying thing that you're insuring. It's got to come first. The health care that we have in the United States really isn't insurance, it's prepaid health care. Can you imagine, Laura, what your car insurance was cost if the government required you to cover tune-ups, tire replacements, and gas refills?
No.
And I think the American people are wising up that that's going to be very expensive, and that's what's happened to health care.
So Patients USA, it's a 501c4 organization, and so it can spend money on political campaigns, correct? And can give money to certain efforts, but it can't. The money in this group can't be used to endorse specific candidates. Is that a correct description?
Well, whatever the rules are, our main focus is to spend that money to try to get the patient a seat at the table. If you look at the Kingdom of D.C., at contrast to us out in the counties, at the Kingdom of D.C., you have the executives from the insurance companies, drug companies, and hospital companies sitting at a table debating what healthcare is going to look like. You and I, Laura, as patients, are sitting at the sidelines with our doctors waiting to see what it's going to look like. So we've seen a lot of doctors rallying to this idea. And then the first step we want to do is simply get one line piece of legislation passed, and that is simply, quote, all providers, hospitals, doctors, all providers of healthcare services and products are required to publish prices, close quote. And the enormous support. You cannot find a Bernie supporter, a Hillary supporter, Trump supporter out here in the colonies who oppose it. Ran into Haley Barbour, Mr. Republican, head of the Republican National Committee for quite a while. I'm for it. And then I ran into a coffee shop in Jackson, Jim Wolfenson, the retired chairman of the World Bank, Mr. Democrat. He says transparency is so important. That was a big salient part of when I ran the World Bank. So it's a no-brainer where people would sign up on Patients USA, sign the petition that we want that kind of legislation, and then we can unfold other steps after that. So it's a beginning to start the process. In Milwaukee, you can get an MRI for $600 or $3,000. So if we give people information, they'll make better choices.
We're talking to Foster Friess here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Foster, before we let you go, you said that you would consider perhaps running against Dr. Barrasso, John Barrasso, who's a senator from Wyoming. You hail yourself, of course, from Wyoming. And now it looks like you are going to challenge him for sure.
Well, it's still up in there. I never would have ever considered it, Laura, had Steve Bannon not called and suggested, because all the invites I've had by friends over the years to run is people kind of angling to get an invite to my 80th birthday party. But I looked it up, Laura. It pays $174,000, and I've been out of work since 2001, so I do have to give it a little consideration. And I think one of the considerations, because some things have happened lately, this disaster with our betrayal of the Kurds is the most unbelievable thing that's not only distasteful for how we treat the Kurds, our allies, but the fact that it's very, very bad for our security and our policy. In fact, General Soleimani, the Iranian general who led the attack on Kirkuk, had basically said, we do not want another Israel in our midst. And think of what that would mean now that we've kind of lost a foothold with the Kurds. So that would be one reason.
Okay, Foster, I want to jump in there on the Kurds because most people listening to this show, they're in Wyoming, they're in California, they're in Florida, Pennsylvania. They're hearing you talk about the Kurds, and they say we care about Kansas City. We're not worried about the Kurds. Why should they care about the Kurds?
Because if they care about freedom in America, and there's World War III is going on, and we're losing every battle. This is just one more battle of the people in Iran who are destined to cut us out of the world. They have a war on Christianity, they have a war on West, and every day is a new battle. If we don't stand up for the Kurds, what will that mean 5-10 years from now? It just seems like we're losing every day the effort to try to curb the sweep of this theology that's taking over Turkey and all across the Middle East and even active in our own country. So I believe it's incredibly important, and that's why it hasn't got enough visibility, because the guy who's sitting in the Senate, he's more concerned about the issues of a given state, and it gets overlooked, and it's a tragic mistake on our part.
Well, Foster, we really appreciate your joining us and really appreciate your advocacy for patience, not the bureaucracy, but patience. Healthcare is more than just, quote, access to care. It's about treatment. And what happens to actual treatment when the government is involved in redistributing wealth? Why can't the free market be in place so people can get treatment for basic conditions and basic services that are much more affordable because of real free market forces in effect? Foster Friess, dear friend, Patients USA. We'll link up all of this on lauraingraham.com. Foster, thanks so much. We'll take a break here on the Laura Ingraham Show tonight on the Ingraham Angle. Immigration sob stories swamping Trump promises. We'll get into that as Donald Trump continues his tour of Asia, with some concern back home that the trade agenda, trade enforcement, will be left behind in this quest to have a closer, perhaps more cooperative China on North Korea. All of that will be tackled tonight, and when we come back, a lot more, including the CMA Awards. They wrote a parody song. Oh, no. Criticizing Trump again? You may be surprised. Well, I was a little bit relieved to hear last night that the Country Music Awards 2017 CMAs were staying out of politics. And it was kind of a funny little ditty. Yeah, it was kind of funny. I didn't mind that. The Scaramucci, that's kind of old. I mean, who even remembers him anymore? The Hillary thing was funny. So they were not going to criticize Trump, because that's what all of the entertainers do. They can't help themselves, right? So the country music folks would just back off. Well, no, they couldn't really resist. I don't even think anyone knows these I don't even remember covfefe or what it is. I mean, they're kind of need to update their humor on that. It's okay, I guess, but I went back and looked at what the Country Music Awards did in 2014, and they did take aim at Obama. They actually were pretty good. I don't know if we have it, but Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood. They went after healthcare.gov and President Obama. You know, and they said that, I'm pretty sure this is why we lost the Senate. Basically, the healthcare.gov site not working. So they can give as good as they get. They can hit both sides, and I think that's all we're looking for. If you're gonna be delving into political humor, then there's just as much humor on the Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin side as there is on the Trump side. So just, be a little bit fairer about it. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show. A lot to get to. And remember, tonight, 10 p.m., the Ingraham Angle. You want to tune into that and DVR us if you're out and about. And Billionaire at the Barricades. Buy it, bring it for Thanksgiving, give copies to your friends or your relatives who annoy you. You're listening to the Laura Ingraham